You're watching TVC Breakfast. It is countdown to the governorship election in Kogi and Bayelsa states.
Come Saturday, November 16th, Kogites and Bayelsans will head to the polls to elect a governor for another 4 years. But persons living with disability may boycott the poll for the two main reasons.
First is the security situation in both states. Just yesterday, violence broke out at a meeting venue of political parties in Kogi State.
PWDs also want the amendment of Section 56, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act to be amended to make provisions for braille or tactic ballots and special voting centers to enable them exercise their franchise.
Joining us now is David Anyele, disability activist, social worker, and public relation disability development consultant. Your portfolio is huge. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC
so
Breakfast. Now, Section 56, subsection 2 is the issue here. First, now that it is yet to be amended, are you guys going to boycott these elections come Saturday?
It is not necessary. The reason is because we have a National Disability Act that also provide some provisions that will enable INEC to do the needful by ensuring that people with disabilities participate in the electoral process on equal basis with others. Any action or inaction by INEC that demonstrates discrimination is against the prohibition of the Disability Act. So INEC, while we are waiting for the amendment of Section 56, to ensure that robust provision is made to enhance persons with disability participation in the electoral process, we can equally rely on the provisions in the National Disability Act to, compel INEC to take appropriate measure to ensure that no one is left behind in the electoral process by reason of disability.
So we've been having elections over the years, and INEC has not still done anything regarding people living with disabilities. Have your organization taken INEC to court on this matter?
Part of the reason why we've not used litigation advocacy to engage INEC was because we are seeking to secure a legal framework that can give us that leadway to demand for necessary provision using the law. Now that there is an act of the National Assembly, which we expect that all arms of government comply to the provisions, we are going to observe to the extent that INEC implement the provisions of this act. That is why I said, while we are waiting for Section 56 to be amended to enhance person with disability participation, we can equally request INEC to look at the National Disability Act and identify areas that compel them to take action and be able to ensure that people with disabilities participate in Kogi and Bayelsa states governorship elections.
But in Nigeria's history, you look at the presidential election, INEC tried to do something when it comes to persons with disabilities. Shouldn't they be given credit when it comes to trying to have an inclusive election? In fact, for this time or this period, so to speak.
It's not a charity.
It's not a charity, agreed.
Yes, yeah.
But they have made an attempt.
It's issue of fundamental human right of every Nigerian citizen. Therefore, using the term, we've made an attempt, does not come in. The reason is simple. All Nigerians are equal before the law.
Absolutely.
Anybody that is eligible to participate in election, it is the responsibility of INEC to ensure such individual participate. And any barrier that will hinder that person from participating, it is also the responsibility of INEC to remove such barrier. Therefore, if
don't you think they are limited to an extent?
They cannot be limited. The reason is simple. We have our parliament. INEC demand for prepares budget for election. INEC, present their budget to National Assembly for approval.
Absolutely.
So if they do not include issues that will enhance persons with disabilities to participate in election, it is their deliberate making.
What will it take for persons with disabilities?
We need to leave it here, but this conversation definitely will continue. Thank you so much, David Anyele, for your time on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you, bye.
You're watching TVC Breakfast. It is countdown to the governorship election in Kogi and Bayelsa states.
Now, come Saturday, November the 16th, Kogites and Bayelsans will head to the polls to elect a governor for another 4 years. But persons living with disability might boycott the poll for two main reasons.
First is the security situation in both states. Just yesterday, violence broke out at a meeting venue of political parties in Kogi State.
PWDs also want the amendment of Section 56, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act to be amended to make provision for braille or tactile ballots and special voting centers to enable them exercise their franchise.
Joining us now is David Anyele, disability activist, social worker and public relation disability development consultant. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you, ma.
Now, one issue is the amendment of Section 56 of the Constitution, but another issue is the issue of security.
Yeah.
How much or to what extent is this a challenge for persons with disabilities to the extent they do not want to go out on Saturday?
Yeah, security is a serious issue. The reason is simple. Observation shows that an average Nigerian security agent does not understand the difference between a person with disabilities and a person without disability. Mm-hmm. Yes, let me give you a classical example.
All right.
When a deaf person appears before a polling unit, and that person is deaf and trying to communicate or interact with the system, they tend to abuse such individual, claiming that, oh, he's pretending or that's not correct. And the person says, I'm deaf, trying to, to communicate. It's a big issue. I recall vividly during the Ondo State Governorship election, we had a meeting with the then IG, and I raised this issue before him. I said, security men should be trained on how to manage people with disabilities during electioneering, especially to ensure that they have access to, protection. And the man said, oh, they should have a special tag that will identify them as persons with disability. So I don't know whether the INEC took that, his recommendation, into consideration. What I'm trying to say is that in the way the politicians are speaking these days, they speak more or less like warlords. And that kind of environment does not encourage vulnerable people to go out to participate.
And this is why you're clamoring for a special polling unit?
Yeah, people can, recommend such, but that will not be the solution to the problem. The solution remains that every key players, the security agencies, everybody must work towards having a peaceful election during any election in Nigeria. Without that, we can't keep on creating this and creating that, all in the name to solve a small problem that ordinarily, security agencies should be able to tackle. And this culture of impunity that prevails along political space in Nigeria is a key issue. When people think that they have access to, to power, and they can do and undo, and nothing will happen, it will continue to create fear among vulnerable groups that is struggling to participate in election, and you're also adding issues of security around it. It's a big issue.
Yes, it's indeed a big issue for everyone. But at this point, if INEC is to do something for those people living with disabilities, of course, the resources is a huge issue. But what can they do in a holistic approach?
What they can do is to ensure that the security deployment during elections.
Apart from security, election materials.
Even election materials, INEC should reassure and ensure that ad hoc staff understand disability issues. The bulk of the problem we have is that an average ad hoc staff of INEC does not know what is required to ensure a person.
So what's the level of engagement between the persons living with disability and INEC on these issues?
We have been engaging during the just concluded the general election that was held early this year. INEC called for a stakeholders forum in which they asked each civil society organization to make recommendations. I was there, and they made robust, recommendations on how to mitigate some of these issues.
Has there been follow-ups quickly?
This is what we want to know during this election, to know the extent INEC made their commitment to ensure that those recommendations are adhered to.
All right, David Anyele, thank you for your time.
Thank you.